any new entrepreneur, as soon as they're starting to think about their new employee, then what I want them to do is, hey, what is this thing that's making you the most money, right? That you need to focus on. Whatever's not that, you just make a linear workflow. If it's opening, closing, so in my industry, it's, hey, someone has to open the location. They have to turn on the lights, potty the dogs, feed the dogs, make sure every dog gets their medication. So I need to literally make a linear workflow, regardless of the industry. I have a friend with a barber shop. Same thing, linear workflow for opening and closing, linear workflow, linear, straight line, right? And so the new person, I want them to write step 1 through 40. And then I want them to get their new person, give them the list. And whatever doesn't work, then rewrite the list, give it to them the second day. And they just keep doing that, offloading whatever are the least income producing activities first.
Entrepreneurs, I'm excited for today because we're touching on an industry we don't get on the show often. Today, we're bringing on Ryan, the founder of TipTop K9 Dog Training. Ryan, thanks for joining the community here at That Entrepreneur Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I try to get as many different industries from experienced founders as I can because you never
Yeah.
know what you can learn from a different spot, hopefully inspire some new entrepreneurs in this field. But our guest today here on That Entrepreneur Show has personally trained over 5,000 dogs. Yes, you heard that right. And has a passion for both training dogs and teaching others how to train. Despite being obsessed with dogs and wanting to spend all day training them, he manages 3 businesses: TipTop Canine Franchising, 20 locations across the US. So congrats on that. TipTop K9 Tulsa, which is an Oklahoma-based dog facility that trains dogs, staff of 32 people, and TipTop International, where they have a wholesaler of pet products. Thank you for joining us, everyone listening on today. You heard that preview. We've got a rock star coming your way. If this is your first time joining us, this is the show that interviews top founders from all around the globe to help you on this journey that has no textbook, no blueprint. You have to learn just from doing it. Today's show is brought to you by Coming Alive Podcast Production. Head to the link in bio to learn more about starting your show today. But Ryan, a lot of things going on in your umbrella brand. Of those 3 businesses, was there any that you wanted to start first, or what did you want to get involved with right away?
Yeah, I think the franchising is definitely kind of the most exciting thing. That's where the majority of my focus is right now.
How did you get into that though? Give us more because franchising is not as easy as people may
Right.
think.
Oh man, it is not easy at all. So, what happened is I started training dogs like 2007, 2008, went full time in 2010. My wife came on board after about 6, 7 years, helped really add a lot of structure, accountability, and helped me really focus on the processes. And then in 2017, we're like, hey, business is running so good. I'm working like 5, 10 hours a week. And so we were like, okay, it's time to expand, right? I'm not going to just be sitting around all day. So when we decided to expand, we had to think about how we're going to do that. And we wanted to do franchising. We thought about corporate stores. What we ended up doing is in 2017, we licensed 5 stores. So we opened up 5 corporate stores, licensed them to check out how those ran. And we fixed a lot of issues there because our thought was franchising seems to be the way to go because it gives people 100% ownership. If we run corporate stores, at some point, I'm going to have my top guys there, my top ladies, they're going to have skin in the game. They're going to have equity anyways, right? So why not just give them all of it, right? And help them with all those back end processes. The people who like dog training and are drawn to the field, those are the people that really, they don't want to learn about Google Ads. They definitely don't want to go over phone scripts with people and listen to recorded phone calls and hold people accountable for how they did their outbound or inbound campaigns.
Yeah.
Right? The people drawn to our field, they're not interested in that. They want to be hands-on with the dogs, hands-on with people. So we took a lot of those processes off the table, the back end stuff, And we allow now people to really 90% of their time, if they own a franchise, they're focused on the training the dogs and training the people and training other dog trainers. So it's pretty exciting, man. So we've been franchising now for almost 6 years, and like I said, 20 locations. It's pretty exciting. We have 4 more by the end of the year that are signing for either a second or third location. So it's super exciting growth.
That's exciting, incredible. And I see the passion right through the screen here. Or if you're listening on, I know you hear it through the mic. So thank you for bringing that intensity to the show. Did you grow up with dogs?
Yeah, I grew up with dogs. Everyone in my family growing up had a dog. Most of my extended family was all hunters, bird hunters. So my dad was a bird hunter. He had pointers. My grandpa had pointers. One of my great uncles trained pointers. Other 2 uncles, they had duck dogs. So I grew up around a lot of hunting dogs, and I was very much not a hunter. Very, very city boy, but I liked training with them, messing with them, playing with the dogs. Early on, one of my favorite memories was I had this dog as a little kid, and we had this like little swing set thing with the monkey bars in the backyard, and this dog would climb up the stairs. I could coax her and she'd climb up the stairs, and I could slide down the slide and coax her, and she would actually run off the back of the fort and run and then shoot down the slide. Like, she was pretty crazy. She'd also like climb the fence and stand on the top rungs and howl and
Amazing.
until someone got her down. Yeah, she's a crazy dog, but it just with that much personality, what's not to like be obsessed with as a little boy.
I
You know?
love it. The
Yeah.
reason I asked that is because everyone out there, your passion, what are you passionate about? Rather, funnel that into your business. Today's guest is a perfect, example of that. And now you heard the growth that's been happening from him sticking with what he loves, sticking with what he's good at. And I know he touched on working 5 to 10 hours a week at the end, but it wasn't always like that. What was the hardest part for you in the
Yeah.
beginning of your entrepreneurial journey?
The hardest part for me was the startup phase in the dog training business. In the dog training industry, startup is particularly hard. So at one point, we did in-home boot camps and I'd take dogs to the house.
Okay.
Well, if you have 4 or 5 client dogs at your house and you did lessons too, right now we have a facility. But if you go out and do lessons and consultations and you come back and train, there's a potential you could work 12 or 14 hours a day. Right. So like I would potty dogs, start pottying and feeding dogs, taking care of them at 6:30, right? 6:30 in the morning. And then I would last potty them at 9:30 at night. And I'm training in between. So like
Long
you can
day.
make a lot of cash, right? You can make a lot of income, but as far as work-life balance, the hardest part in this industry is getting your first 3 employees. Getting your first 3 employees, working really hard to get someone else training boot camp dogs, getting someone else training private lesson dogs, so where you can focus on sales consultations, and then you start training a third person. After 3 people, it gets a lot easier,
I
right?
love that
Due to
advice.
the facility, but yeah.
Crushing it, man. Well, thank you for sharing that. But now, as you've grown, you started having more employees, more locations. Something you
Yeah.
experienced was death to micromanaging. Let's talk about that a little more because I mean, the hardest thing for me was letting go. Eventually, I got my assistant almost 2 years ago now, where you're finally letting go of those things. Now we're at a team of 11. It does get easier
Awesome.
after the first two, but you still have to be there as a leader, and micromanaging can turn off employees unintentionally. Let's
It can.
talk more about your experiences, please.
Yeah, death to micromanaging is super important. The thing that some people want to do is they just want to control everybody and everything to make sure everything's perfect. And that's going to drive people away. What people want is real leadership. They want to be groomed to excellence, right? You want to bring the best out of people and they're going to stay. So when you micromanage someone, it's because as a leader, you're not setting a good example. They don't have clear expectations. So in our meeting today, we have our team meeting, all of our staffs in there. We're saying, hey, here's the leader. Here's our new people, right? We're hiring again right now. We're saying, hey, this is the new leader does. They delegate a task and then they follow up. They delegate a task and they follow up, right? Simple. Cool. Well, at some point, that new person has to learn how to follow up with the leader. Otherwise, I have a leader chasing a million people, right? As far as micromanaging goes, as a leader, and when I'm teaching my people, I want to teach them how to think through asking them questions and letting them make mistakes. I want them to be able to be free enough to make mistakes. If they're afraid that I'm going to come behind them and just, oh, you didn't do it right, and just criticize them, what that individual will end up doing is coming to me and try to have me make every decision for them, right? That's what an insecure person or someone with anxiety might do. So as a leader, I want to teach them to think so I don't have to micromanage. First 30 days, of course, I'm going to micromanage them. Of course. But at some point, I have to kill the micromanaging by teaching my employee how to think, letting them know it's okay to make mistakes, and then following up with them when they do trial and error and do things on their own, following up with them to make sure they know that I care, and so they know what the right thing's supposed to look like.
Very, very well said. As a new leader in the beginning, again, letting go of that micromanaging. You want everything to be perfect because you try to do everything perfect. You're an
Right.
entrepreneur. That's part of the game. But eventually letting the team know, just please double check your work. Mistakes are going to happen because we're human. And then go from there, giving them the flexibility because I know they have the skill sets or they wouldn't be on the team. You know
Right.
they're capable of doing it. And I try to remind them that how appreciative I always am of them. You kind of tease this a little bit because of the training you put into everything.
Yeah.
Turnover has to do a lot with culture. Let's talk more about that.
Yeah, so I think our turnover at TipTop K9 is very low. Right now, depending Bureau of Labor Statistics, you'll see anywhere 40, 45, 48% yearly turnover as far as industry wide, right? Especially we run a call center. Call center turnover is very high. Well, ours is about 18 to 22%, but like less than half of normal. And I think a lot of that has to do with culture. One, like with the letting people make mistakes, right? Not big mistakes, obviously, but if I try to kill that micromanage, teach people to think, show them the right thing to do, we have a little different culture. The other thing that's really important as far as culture, it's not just the work why people are leaving. A lot of times it's either the atmosphere, right? The backbiting, the gossiping, all that BS. So with that, it has to be a culture of upfront accountability where, hey, if you're going to talk bad about people, we're going to bring those people in and we're going to handle situations right off the bat.
Being a proactive leader. I love that.
Have to. You have to. No A player wants to be around crap talkers, man. They just don't. They don't want to be around the gossip, the backbiting, all that stuff. So I think culture wise, it's very important that you handle the negatives very quickly, right? And also, we try to set the tone. We do a discovery day where people can come work with us for one day. And then we say, hey, these first 2 weeks,
A great idea.
if you don't like it, well, I want you to leave. And if we don't think you're a good fit, we will tell you to go. Then we do a 2 week trial period. And then we tell them, hey, the first 90 days is more of like an extended period. But we try to push them almost one way or the other, whether they want to be here or they don't.
Ultimately, you want that. You don't want to force a hire
Yeah.
because if they're not really into it, you're going to regret it on the back end. I've learned that. We also talked about hiring before. Now we talked a little on firing, letting go of your first person, extreme challenge. I found my kindness getting abused in many ways. And then they were learning lessons as well because you have to be that boss hat and not that friend hat. You could be
Right.
friendly. So those were all things that, of course, you have to learn, but you don't learn them until you start leading more people. You
Right.
talked about systems also earlier here. Are there any systems you can recommend to our audience, maybe some newer entrepreneurs that aren't strictly in your industry, more for the entrepreneurial success?
Yeah. So any new entrepreneur, as soon as they're starting to think about their new employee, then what I want them to do is, hey, what is this thing that's making you the most money, right? That you need to focus on. Whatever's not that, just make a linear workflow. If it's opening, closing, so in my industry, it's, hey, someone has to open the location. They have to turn on the lights, potty the dogs, feed the dogs, make sure every dog gets their medication. So I need to literally make a linear workflow, regardless of the industry. I have a friend with a barber shop. Same thing, linear workflow for opening and closing, linear workflow, linear, straight line, right? And so the new person, I want them to write step 1 through 40. And then I want them to get their new person, give them the list. And whatever doesn't work, then rewrite the list, give it to them the second day. and then just keep doing that, offloading whatever are the least income producing activities first. That's what I
Amazing.
would recommend.
And you have to focus on what's making money. It takes time to realize because when you're wearing all the hats in the beginning,
Yeah.
you have to do everything. You can't be great at everything, but you got to try.
Yeah, yeah. You, you got to try. So then you got to focus though. You have to focus on whatever's bringing in the bacon. That's got to be your
100%.
number one focus.
I've been getting some great notes here for when we go live. We already talked on franchising help, focusing on the processes, that death to micromanaging. I loved the discovery day to really bring in people. I have never heard of that. We're
Really?
almost at 5 years of weekly shows. I've not had that happen one time on this show, so major
Oh,
props to you. And then I just typed in here the power of linear workflows. Everyone's going to want to tune into this just from that. But now, as we're winding down, I'd love to ask my guests if you can pick any entrepreneur throughout history, dead or
mhm.
alive, who you would love to sit down with to pick their brain, who would you choose and why?
So I would probably choose, if I could choose one entrepreneur, it would be Jim Rohn.
Let's talk about it.
Jim Rohn, obviously, he was Tony Robbins' mentor and a mentor to other business people too. His thinking, when I listen to his old tracks, is very good. And I feel like he's touched so many different people and he's so wholesome and giving. It's not just like a lot of people can be successful. You can work 90 hours a week and be successful and be a jerk and have no one like you and have a bad family life. Well, I'm after the triple double, right? I want people to like me. I want to have a good family. I want to have a good business. I want to have fun in life and I want to have friends. And I feel like Jim Rohn had success and he was able to replicate that in others while he was living the whole life. And that's one of the things that really draws me to him.
Let's delve deeper, man. Where would this meeting go down if you could pick the location too?
I think I'd have to dial it back 40 years and I'd want to go to his house with his family there.
I
Right?
love when people
Yeah,
choose the homes because where are they most comfortable? That's where you're going to get the most golden nuggets.
for
Eh,
sure.
It's been a lights out show. Do you have a last word for our audience before we go ahead and get your contact info?
Like I said, we're doing dog training franchises. If anyone's looking to change their career, you hate your career, you want to own your own job, go to tiptopk9.com, check us out. If you need help with dog training, you got a bad dog, that's our specialty too.
I love that. And now, which states are you currently present in?
Awesome. So we're currently in Oklahoma, Arkansas, lots in Texas, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Florida, Nashville, South Carolina, and Michigan. So 11 states.
Crushing it. And everyone out there, he didn't start with 11 states, excuse me. He had to start with one. And I hope everyone out there got a lot of value today and inspiration as I did. Ryan, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I want to thank our audience for continuing to make this show a top 2.5% global podcast. You all make it possible to host and a joy to host. Check out the show on all podcast platforms, That Entrepreneur Show. Give us a follow, a review. Let our guests know how much you loved them today. I am at Vincent A. Lancy on all social with my website, vincentalancy.com. Today's sponsor is Coming Alive Podcast Production. Head to comingalivepodcastproduction.com to learn more. But with that, we are signing off today. Ryan, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, Vincent. I appreciate you, sir.